So today I am joined by Jenny McCarthy, who is the owner and founder of Five Oaks Farm in Alabama. And thank you so much, Jenny, for taking the time to share about your experience working with Nips Media, and what your growth and how your business has progressed over the last 3 to 4 months here. But before we dive into that, I was hoping you could just share a little bit about your business, and also your founder's journey, because it only started not too long ago, while it probably feels like forever. And would love to just start with that and hearing a little bit more about Five Oaks Farm before talking about your experience.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, David. We started our whole journey essentially. So it's December of 2025 right now. And it's January 2025 right now. And December of 2023 was when we first put our bread bags. We make beeswax bread bags, handmade, first put them on our website, and we were just hoping to sell a few. We never in a million years thought like they would take off like they did. We had a fantastic December and then doubled sales in January of 2024, and then did an even bigger month in February of 2024. Our product is somewhat seasonal, and so we just started to see a decrease in stuff, and so we kind of hit a slump through the summer and such. But then in September, I had the wonderful experience of working with another business owner and creator that worked with David, and he highly recommended David. And we were at the point where, so we own a farm and we grow most of our own food. We did a lot of our all of our sales traffic came from Instagram. And
Mm,
so I was managing Instagram and doing all of those sorts of driving forces to get the sales, but it was exhausting.
yeah,
It also had very little to no control. So I would consistently put out content, and it would sometimes drive traffic, sometimes it wouldn't convert, but then sometimes things would go viral. And then we had this huge wave that was completely overwhelming that we weren't really prepared for. But then after that wave subsided, then we'd have very little traffic back to the website.
right.
And I'm a mom of 5 kids. And just that inconsistency in business was really challenging on a family level. So, as I was talking with this other business owner, he just highly recommended David and his team, and just how consistent and how much business they had brought, and how much stability to their business they had brought. And that was exactly what we were looking for. We had found success with marketing through social media, but I just did not have the bandwidth to do all the A/B testing and like really dive into the numbers and tweak the audiences and all of that, because I was running a business and half the time overwhelmed.
Right.
so
Right.
um so in September, I believe it was, I
Yep. Right towards the end of September.
yeah, September 2024, I reached out and just said, hey, can I get some information?
Yep.
And by the beginning of October, we had chosen to go ahead and sign on. I figured it was a really great time going into what I knew would be a busier season, because as a small business, even, I don't know, cost is a big thing, overhead cost and everything.
Yep.
As much as I knew it was going to be worth it, I didn't have the proof that it was going to be worth it, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
And I also knew there was going to be a learning curve for us and for them as they learned our business. And like we got more fine tuned as far as the ads go and stuff. And so, if ever there was a time to carry that extra expense before we had it dialed in, I figured busy season was it.
Yep.
So, that was why we just like dove in head first. We went ahead and did social media and email, like all the things. And our I'm just running away with all the with everything at this point. Sorry.
No, this is fabulous.
Um, but our goal, we had our goal, and the goal that the monetary goal for gross sales that I had thrown out for that initial meeting. I just have to say, like, end of year, when we look at the numbers, we 3x'd our dream goal from when I talked with David the first time. So we tripled the amount of sales for the entire year for what we were hoping for in 3 months worth of ads, and then just working together and creating content and getting people to our site.
Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic. And, when you were going back to the end of September, you were, if I remember from our conversation, you were really understood the power of advertising and email. Like I could tell
Yeah.
you knew, but I'm sure there was probably some fear and hesitation, even knowing that you were going into the busy season. Were there
Mm-hmm.
any challenges or fears or anything working with a company that was, especially going in with leading up to that, you were the one that had your hands on most of the marketing at that point.
Yeah.
What kind of fears and hesitations did you have prior to getting started?
Um, so when you grow a business from a seed to a plant, like, it's a small plant still, and the potential of how big the plant could be, um but honestly, in hindsight, I didn't understand. I was just kind of thinking that it could be bigger, but I had no concept of how big and how we could scale, of how many people we could get their eyes on our product. um but it's your baby,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you've taken care of this and you've grown this, and like from nothing, and like conceptually, and then your fingerprints are all over the brand, and
Yep.
all the things. So I won't say that it wasn't hard, but I was also at the completely overwhelmed, I need help point, because I had tried to do it all, and pretty much I only was doing social media well, and I can't even say it was perfect. But in the middle of life and everything else, like, I absolutely didn't understand. Like, I knew I needed help, and I knew I needed a team, and I knew that with a team we'd be capable of so much more than what I could do on my own. I just underestimated how much more. And in hindsight, I wish I would have done it sooner. But we also were going through slow season, and it was really hard to justify, bringing somebody else on that we were going to have to pay during a lean time for our business.
Yep.
So in hindsight, timing couldn't have been more perfect,
Yep.
probably.
Yep.
But
Totally
um,
agree.
but I did have concerns, but you and your team, like, every step, um, there's an opportunity to speak into or tweak details or adjust things, and y'all have been so good at, like, listening and adjusting when I've said something. Like, I don't ever feel like I have to fight for my voice to be heard, or that it's a runaway train. I feel like you guys have done a fantastic job in actually understanding our business, understanding our clients, understanding our values, and
Mm.
making sure that all the marketing is within a reasonable perimeter of that,
Yep.
so that it is a reflection of us still, and not just like something out of left field.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Another thought as you were saying that is obviously, our expertise being coming in primarily with the paid advertising
Mhm.
and your business growing prior to that organically. it's two different worlds of organic marketing and then paid marketing.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I think of it as when we do so much advertising that it's like second nature to us, but I forget that it's still like the idea of what is a ROAS and what is a CPM and all of these things that you picked up so quickly. But what was your knowledge of advertising like prior to getting started? And what do you feel like you learned 3 months into this and seeing how the numbers work and spending money on advertising now that probably would have felt absolutely crazy 3 months ago, like on a daily spend level, but now you get, if you understand what I mean, like how is
Yeah.
your perspective changed of advertising?
Well, so my degree is in business administration. So I wasn't completely new or naive to marketing. I've owned my own business for years. I was a professional photographer before we started the farm business. Um, and so I marketed that business through social media primarily, but also word of mouth.
Right.
I never I tried some paid ads with my photography business, but it never really took. It wasn't anything that I felt like was overly successful.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got to the point finally through a lot of years with Instagram and social media. I had started an Instagram account for our farm when we purchased our land, and then really kind of used it as a documentation to kind of tell our story or remember our story as we developed things around here. Um, so I had grown our social media over time, but had gotten it to about 5,000 followers just shy of December 2023. And then I posted the bread bags, and there was something that happened, a shift that happened there that then launched us. So now I believe we're going to hit 84,000 followers today.
Wow.
And I felt like I had almost like cracked the code on successful organic marketing.
Yep.
But like I said before, it's so unpredictable. So I can put out the same quality information, the same types of reels that took off last time and don't take off, again, but then wait a month and then it takes off again. And you just have no control over how wide and far. And until I don't know. So I knew about marketing, and you read everywhere in business stuff like the most valuable asset, like start collecting emails the moment you open the doors of your business. Email is so important, but then also like I don't know how to explain it. I was very aware of the potential of marketing. I was not effectively managing any of it other than organic Instagram marketing. And it truly gets to a point where you can only do so many things well. And beyond that, I just wasn't doing any of the other types of marketing well, and completely underestimated how effective having a team that actually knows what they're doing that I can trust is. Um, so I didn't have as much fear once I figured out financially you were going to pay for yourself like tenfold, like no
Right.
problem. But then on top of that, just how well y'all listen, and that took a lot of the fear out of it. As far as learning the lingo and stuff, I've always found those numbers to be interesting. I just didn't have time to actually pursue those numbers myself. And honestly, like the back end of like all of the meta stuff for ads, I just never had time to dive in deep and even like figure it out. It's a completely different, it's
Yep.
it's a completely different interface.
Yep.
And so beyond just like having a post and then clicking boost, I just didn't have a whole lot of
Yeah.
interaction with ads in general. And that's probably why I wasn't successful with them. But
Yeah.
having people that actually knew how and what to do with them has made all the difference. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I can very well clearly recall, I think it was our second like meeting or team meeting.
mhm.
And we opened the call and you said, all right, what was my ROAS for the past week?
Yeah,
And where you said that, and that's very rare when you're working with, it usually takes a lot of explaining like the cost of advertising and here's why we want to spend more and keep going.
yeah,
Whereas you picked it up so quickly. It was second call. I quickly explained the formula we use. You had talked through, okay, for me to be profitable, this is the ROAS I need. Anything above that, let's go for it.
yeah.
I feel like that relinquishment of control but you still had your hand on the steering wheel gave
Hmm.
us the ability to move quickly because we had your permission, kept you in the loop. You knew enough to trust and go, but
Yeah,
that really created a lot of synergy. And also, I say to our team all the time, your background in photography and video makes advertising easy because you're out here on social figuring out which videos work, which photos work, and then we have somewhat proven creatives that we can take and then amplify in front of
yeah.
people that haven't heard of you before. And I think that mixture of the two is just a recipe for greatness in a business. And
Well, and it's created so much consistency on our side. Like we essentially set a budget of like this is how, based on our stock, this is how much we can handle a day. And like we set the budget for that. We know what our ROAS
yep,
numbers are. And like we can adjust the marketing to fit
turn the
what
dial.
we
Yep.
actually have in stock. And it's like, oh, we're getting low on this. All right, let's shift. And just that responsiveness of being able to sell what we have and then being able to kind of draw back in one area and lean in another to keep those numbers consistent. Like I know within $1,000 right now what we're going to sell every day.
Yep.
And it's so consistent because I mean, yes, we've been through a busy season. We're still in our busy season. It goes through until about March.
Yep.
But like it's so dependable and like predictable, which at that point as a business owner, it makes it so that I can easily manage things. Like it's predictable. So I can plan for tomorrow and the next day and next week. I can place orders and know that they're going to sell without worrying about, purchasing too much or things like that. So
Right.
it's been amazing going from, the waves of organic marketing over to paid advertising. Not only have our sales increased a ton, we have so much more control as far as, how much overwhelm we're dealing with at a
Yep.
time. Like how much
Yep.
can we handle?
Yep. You
And
can hire, you can buy supplies
yeah,
predictably without worrying about, am I going to have to lay this person off if I don't have another viral reel? Or
yeah,
am I going to overbuy or get over? It's predictability,
yeah,
which is huge.
absolutely. Like even right now, we're low stock in our primary driver for sales, but like we've worked out like one of our secondary kind of add-in or add-on options, and we're leaning into that along with a digital course, and we've been able to like shift it. And even though we're low in stock for our main seller, we're still getting the same dollar amount sales wise at the end of the day
Right.
because
Right.
I don't know, y'all are awesome.
Huh. Thank you. Thank you. Something you had mentioned, and I want to point this out because the way that we describe our business is boutique marketing agency.
Mm.
And that's a hard word to describe, but the way that I try and explain it is we're not working with 100 clients at one time in this like churn and burn client oven. It's not like that. We're a small team.
Mhm.
And we try and like, we really care about the clients we work with, and we try and have energy of when things are good, like we know how lonely business can be sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when there's a team that you're working with that really cares about when times are good and when times are hard, we equally as much care about turning this around. Like, what has been your experience, like communication wise, energy wise, culture wise, like anything you can share there about your experience?
Um, well, as far as accessibility between like just our chat in Slack and just always being able to keep everybody on the same page, but also like I just I remember back, I forget exactly when it was. I want to say it was after Christmas. Um, but maybe it was before. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Um, Getting a phone call from you and you saying, okay, I'm looking at the ROAS. I'm looking
I
at,
remember this. Yeah.
yeah,
Before Christmas. Yeah.
yeah. I'm looking at all of this data. And I'm confident based on like all of our trials and stuff that we could triple, like we had
I
reached
remember this.
out
Yeah.
our budget for what I had like approved for daily spend on our primary seller. And you you were like, I'm confident that we could
Yeah.
3x or 3.5x this and scale it to that point based on what I'm seeing.
Mhm.
However, how's your stock? Like, how are you guys doing as far as shipping? Are you keeping up? Are you drowning? Like,
Yeah.
where are you at in this? And like, how can we maximize this without overdoing it?
Yeah.
And that was a big moment for me because I mean, knowing the potential, like based on the numbers, like hearing that was so reassuring and validating and everything. But we were also operating at max capacity because we're shipping out of my guest room
Yeah.
and we're in the process of like making a dedicated space that's not in my home and everything. But like we have physical limitations and it was amazing to know that it wasn't just numbers for you, that you were like aware that we were potentially going to hit max. And you just don't want to dump a bunch of money and then like um what we started to see once our inventory started to dwindle because it was the marketing was so effective that we've been
Yeah.
having a hard time keeping stock up because it's a handmade
I
item.
remember I was worried about ruining. I
So
remember I said to our team, I'm like, I'm worried we're gonna ruin Jenny's Christmas. Like, she's gonna spend Christmas Eve and the Christmas Day just packing bread bags or with your kids. Of course, that wasn't the
well,
case.
I did on Christmas Eve,
Um,
but not
but I
Christmas.
remember that was a real fear of ours of 5 kids
Yeah.
operating a business, and we're having fun cranking the numbers. This is
Yeah.
fun for us, but for us, it's just numbers.
Right.
We're not here, and I remember that. And figuring out that synergy and be able to work together.
Yeah.
When you get a big shipment in, you say crank it, and we
Hmm.
do. And then when you get low on supply, it's having the discipline to pull back on that.
Right.
And for our team, not to get greedy of the numbers, right? And knowing
Mhm.
of, we found a really nice synergy there, which has been nice.
Yeah. But then like just loving how willing you guys are, even though we hadn't developed the marketing 100% on the digital course that we're offering, the new digital course, and then our other brands or other items, like we got to the point where we're developing those. And so that is going to layer on top of our already bestseller. And it's just going to increase our overall sales. And, but the willingness to like shift gears and lean into some of those other secondary products to help us maintain our goals for sales numbers and stuff. But um, but also, yeah, playing with those numbers and like leaning in when we have all of the extra stock and like pulling back. I've never felt pressure from you guys on like, no, let's push it. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Because I don't know, you have been very sensitive to our limitations as we've scaled, and great communication to make sure that we're able to keep up, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Last question. If you were sitting in front of somebody who has a business in e-commerce or they sell products online and they're looking to do advertising and email marketing, they're considering working with us, but they're on the edge. They might not have had that same proof and that same willingness that you had in the beginning.
Mm.
What would you say to that person who's on edge?
Two things is they're better at this than you ever will be. And they're going to be more successful at this than you ever will be. And the opportunity costs that you're paying in trying to do something that you're not overly skilled at, instead of doing what you need to do to scale your business, to manage your business, to produce more content, to produce more product, it's costing you more than you know. And I mean, literally those two things. Nips Media has paid for themselves over and over and over again, more so than I ever could have imagined. But then on top of that, they're so much better at this than I would have ever been. And I already was coming in with a good knowledge of business, a good concept of marketing, all the things, but it's not my specialty. And what I'm good at is like being the face of the product, developing new products, producing the products that we already have, like all of those things, they can drive traffic so that we can sell it. And I just need eyeballs. And they're fantastic at getting me the eyeballs. So, and you're losing out on actually growing your business if you're just in the trenches all the time. One more, I guess, so three things. You mentioned earlier, like owning a business is really lonely sometimes. Like we're working odd hours, and yes, we have flexibility because we're the owners, but we also are working like 60, 80. I mean, for a stretch there when we were drowning, I was getting 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night, waking up, taking a shower, literally working all day, most of the time only getting one meal in, and going to bed at like 11, 12. There were a couple nights where I didn't get to bed until 2 because we were just trying to get things out the door. And it's lonely because it's on you to get the job done. And having Nips Media as a team with us in this, and also just having other people that think strategically about business to just bounce an idea off of or think about. I struggle often between analysis paralysis, which I'm a pretty definitive, or like I make decisions pretty easily, but sometimes every once in a while there's something that I just get stuck on.
Yep.
But then also just I get decision fatigue. There are so many little decisions that have to be made throughout the day. By the end of the day, when my kids are like, can I do, fill in the blank? I'm just like, I don't know. I don't care. I don't want to decide this. Go ask dad. Like, but it's so many little decisions. And number one, like now we've built this like rapport and trust between the team. Like half the time I'm just like, yeah, I know it'll be good. Sounds good. Great. Let's go. But you guys have taken a whole chunk of those little decisions, and just are doing them well. And that takes a huge load off of my brain, but also just having somebody else to say, I don't know, should I do A or B? What are your thoughts? And just having somebody else that's thinking strategically to just give me your thoughts on it has helped immensely. It makes it feel like I'm very much less alone in this growing a business thing, that I have some allies. So
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. That means so much to us. And thank you for your partnership. We're looking forward to 2025. We've set some crazy big goals, and I hope
I'm
this
really
next
excited.
year we're talking about them, and I hope that I know we're going to talk about them after a successful year. And just like we didn't know what we didn't know 3 months ago, both of us are 12 months from now we're going to be talking about how remember we had that conversation, and this is where we were
No,
and that's just how it goes sometimes through the good and the bad. So
yeah.
thank you for your trust in us. We appreciate it so much.
Well, we couldn't have done this year without you. So I
Thank you.
we very, very much appreciate you and value you immensely. So don't
Thank you.
go anywhere.
We're staying put.
Sounds good. Sounds
All
good.
right. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.